please tell me one thing that you learned from each place, because I am fascinated with learning other cultures. And, here in America, we are so quick to eat fast food. And when we become unhealthy, we'll just take a pill. So I know in other countries, they are more holistic, more natural, they're more active. For instance, my father, we're from the Dominican Republic, and my great grandmother, she just passed away, but she lived to 104 years old. And it's because she lived in the campo, it's the country. She didn't have a running toilet. She didn't have a stove in her house. It was a cement stove outside. Even in her 90s, she was still cooking rice and beans and eating cantaloupe. And it's just,
right.
they are so much more active, natural, and less stressed. So what did you learn from each place if you had to pick one thing?
Well, I learned so much, but I think in Japan, what I really learned was the importance of everything in your lifestyle being holistic, not just your food, but in their community, each person was assigned another person. So a person who was 80 was assigned a person who was 100. A person who was 90 was assigned a person who was 105. They had these connections in their community with, I'm responsible for you. So when I wake up in the morning, I come and check on you. And that community was so important. So I learned a lot about making sure every aspect of your life is holistic, because a lot of people will just center and focus in on the food and forget about all of the other areas. And so that's really what I learned a lot about in Japan. They lived a very slow lifestyle, an island lifestyle in Okinawa that wasn't based on anything but living a good life. And so, I learned a lot of different principles, which I talk about in the book in there, but that's one of the main things I learned there. And in Thailand, I did this. So at the monasteries, the monks had this opportunity where you could do something called Vipassana meditation, which is basically silent meditation sport. So for like 10 days, 20 days, you're not saying anything. You can't say a word. You can't read a book. You can't use your phone.
Oh my goodness.
You're just sitting with yourself.
How long did you do?
I did 15 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, like when you're in that silence, you have a lot of inner dialogue. And I learned a lot about my inner voice. And so I teach people in my tribe membership a lot about that inner voice, because sometimes the inner voice isn't the voice that you want to be there. It's the voice that is telling you you're not good enough, that you can't have these things that are harmful for you. And so I always even remind myself of that when I'm in a space where I'm really busy. I check in on myself with my inner voice. So I learned that a lot in Thailand. In India, I learned a lot about yoga. I spent about 6 months in India studying Ashtanga yoga. And it's a very beautiful practice. And being able to stay in a place where you bathe out of a bucket and all you're doing is waking up at 5 a.m. every morning to go do yoga, meditation, chanting, so forth and so forth. It was just a beautiful process to get into that routine and get my body prepared for what I was going to go through in the rest of the traveling, but also being able to download things from, a higher place. So yeah, I could keep going, but every place I went, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about herbs in Africa. And
what would you say? I know you sell herbs, detoxes, sea moss, and it's part of your group. What would you say is your favorite herb that you got from another place or that you offer as one of your supplements on your website?
My favorite herb is a herb I don't sell, only personally use, which is slippery elm. Slippery elm is one of them, and then also stinging nettle. Okay.
And what do you use those for?
Well, stinging nettle is a herb that grows in the ground. It can grow up to 10 feet into the soil. And so whenever a plant grows that deep into the soil, it means that it's going to get a lot of nutrients. So it has a lot of nutrients in it. In addition, so like I usually use that basically as a nutrifier in my body. That's stinging nettle.
That makes sense because have you heard of grounding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently saw a documentary, and I guess grounding is where you go out in nature and you have to put your feet on the ground, or, you know, people would say hippies hug a tree, but literally hugging a tree can help. And it's something, the energy and the nutrients from the earth, I guess, can heal inflammation in your body. And, you know, if you have any pain or any illnesses, it's supposed to help ground you and heal you. So when you said the roots go deeper, that made me think of that. So it's probably much more beneficial for you the deeper the roots go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's one of my favorite herbs as an herbalist. You know, but as you know, I have a detox. It's 2 different blends. One has 7, the other has 8 herbs in it. They all work together. It's like this beautiful symphony. And that's why I always talk about balance. You know, like for instance, one is a Tommy Detox that's designed to cleanse out your entire digestive system from your tongue all the way to your anus. And, you know, I have a herb in there for sage, which clears out negative energy. I have a herb in there, the slippery elm that I talked about before, and that's really good at actually calming down inflammation in the gut. I have another herb in there, senna, which is good for cleaning out the gut. So like you have to put herbs together, which I learned this a lot in Africa. You have to put them in this synergistic way so that they're able to actually heal the body in a very holistic way. Because that's the important thing. You don't want to force anything. You actually want your body to do the work, and the herbs to actually just nudge it in the right direction. So
yeah, makes sense. Tell me more about your detoxes and your group. I follow you online, and I always hear you shouting out your tribe members, and you talk about a private Facebook, and I always see people commenting, I feel so much better, I lost so much weight. Tell us more about your group, and if you have any like crazy healing stories that blew you away from any of your members.
Yeah, so the really great thing is I kind of keep the membership tight. So like the only time you really hear me talk about it is on my lives when my members are on my lives and they're shouting me out or shouting, you know, Tribe Healing Community out. And I keep it that way. I just don't promote it just so that most of the people who come into the membership are actually people who do my group detoxes. So what happens is every 3 to 4 months I do a group detox because my motto is we have all these processes for cleaning our houses, like spring cleaning. We have all these things we do for our cars, detailing, oil changes, tune-ups, tire rotation, buying new tires, new brakes. We do all this stuff for our cars, but we have no process like that for our bodies. We just literally sit and wait for our bodies to deteriorate and rot, and then we try to respond reactively to healing ourselves. The whole idea behind a detox is basically for your body to be rebooted, to be rejuvenated, to be renourished. And that's what the group detox is for. Because when you're in a group detox, you get a meal plan, you get recipes, you get the group of people who have been doing my group detox for the last 3 years. You get me in there giving you education, sort of like what we're doing today. And we do that for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, I've seen people who had diabetes and high blood pressure who no longer have to take those medications. And it's not me being like this rebel. It's me watching them work with their doctors and their doctors saying, I have to take you off this medication. I've seen women with issues like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, recover from that. I've seen them have 7 to 10 day periods. And then after the detox, the next month, their period reduced down to 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
So we've seen like some really, really amazing things. People who had libido issues don't have those issues anymore.
Yeah.
People who are unable to sleep are now able to sleep soundly. So it really just restores the body back to its factory settings. And it has to do that because once you remove the acidity, the toxicity that comes from the food primarily, once you remove the mucus from the body and the inflammation from the body can now relax. The body can go in a state of peace. But it can't do that when it's innervated with all those things. And once it's clean, it can actually do that.